Toss to White. He's in! Patriots win the Super Bowl!
Welcome to Patriots Touchback Podcast.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the Patriots Touchback Podcast. We are back off our little mini bye, you could say. It is season 3, episode 36, and we are going to do our preview of Week 12's matchup on the road. We're on to Cincinnati. Yep, we're playing the Bengals. Kieran's on standby with us as well. We have no guest, unfortunately, for tonight, which is not the be-all and end-all. So everyone that's locked in, make sure you smash the like button. Make sure you grog spike the subscribe button. Tell all your friends. Follow us on social media platforms. And make sure you follow the podcast on Spotify and Apple as well. We're on the road to 100 subs, so let's get there before we get knocked out of the postseason. Let's put it that way. Kieran, good evening, buddy. How's your week been? How have you enjoyed your little mini bye week?
Yeah, do you know what? It's been all right. Obviously, I think as British fans, we prefer to be playing in the kind of 6 p.m. slate on a Sunday. So obviously it was a little bit different, having the weekend off. But we know we're going to get this once a year. So it was nice to kind of sit back and watch the games unfold without having to, have the pressures, I guess, of your own team. But no, it was good. Also, like to mention that good start for England in the Ashes for any cricket fans. Enjoyed that this morning. So yeah, overall, I think it's been pretty good.
Yeah, I did see something in the cricket. There was like 19 wickets. I'm like, hang on, it's the first bloody test. It's the first innings. What the fuck's going on?
Yeah. So I obviously its play started at the early hours of the morning. So I woke up at 9:30 this morning, had a bit of a lay-in on the day off, and switched it on. And England had just taken the 7th wicket of Australia, and in the next 20 minutes they were another 2 down. I was like, oh my god! So there was 19 wickets. Australia have only got 1 left, so this is potentially going to be over in 3 days, which is incredible. I love the Ashes, and for someone who used to live in Australia, like there's nothing more they hate. They had nothing they hate more than losing to England. So, absolute stir that pot.
Yeah, the Barmy Army in full force and giving absolute. Who is it? Who is it? They gave a lot of shit to. Mitchell.
Smith, he's a tosser.
Steve. Steve Silvers also is Mitchell Johnson as well, I believe. I think it was. But anyway, we do have a comment. Moist Car in the building. What's going on, Patriot Station? Hey, we're basking in 9-2. We're going to finish with an above 500 record, which I'm surprised we're going to finish even this still early in the season. But look, we got a bit of a game coming up. Okay, we've got 2 more games before our bye week. Cincinnati is our next opponent. Now I'm going to try and be as very professional as I can here, but I think we cannot disagree. We all say this in unison together. The Bengals defense is fucking shite.
Yes, it is.
Any Bengals fans in the chat, come and defend your team, because I don't think you can.
They are on historically bad levels of defense through a 10-game spell. Yeah, Drake Maye. Yeah, that's my friend who's a Bills fan is crying last night after last night. But Drake Maye, he does love him at the moment. I'll let you into a little insight on this for my mate Dante, who has Travion Henderson in our work fantasy league, who on Thursday night was supporting Travion Henderson having an absolute huge game because it was helping him in fantasy. I've never seen a Bills fan so delighted to see a Patriots running back go off.
That's the only thing I don't like about fantasy is that if you've got a player on your squad, but they're playing the team you actually support, it's like, yes, he's got a touchdown. Oh, shit, we were down. It's that conflict you can't have. I've had that so many times in fantasy. But I get what you mean.
Back to the Bengals, yeah, like going through a historically bad spell over a 10-game period, the most, tied the record for the most games in succession, giving up over 27 points. They are bottom 2 in pretty much every defensive category. So on paper, as far as DVOA is concerned, they are the worst defense in NFL history, which is crazy to say. But also, for their perspective, not the kind of stats you want to have when you're going up against one of the NFL's hottest offenses at the moment.
No, not really, because if you have a look, I'm just looking on their defensive side of the ball. Rush defense, dead last. Pass defense, second worst. Points allowed, dead last. It's just bleak. Their rush offense is 30th in the NFL, third worst. And we thought our freaking running game was pretty skittish, shall we say.
But I think this all comes down to the fact that they are arguably the worst run franchise in the NFL. Like, they just seem to do things so prehistoric. Like, genuinely, like they're so far behind the curve, it's ridiculous. And that you've got a franchise quarterback, Joe Burrow, who's, in my opinion, top 3 in the league. Like, he is quality. He's had some health issues, but he's still an elite QB. You've got arguably the best receiver in football. You've got arguably the best number 2 receiver in football. You've got a pretty decent running back. But aside from that core 4 of players, the rest of the roster is shit, because the offensive line's terrible. They have got nothing defensively. And it gets to the point where, like, how much are you going to let the rest of the team handicap your star players? Because they can only elevate the team so much. And Joe Burrow will literally have to score 40 points a week to keep the team competitive, because they're giving up that many on the defensive side of the ball. So it just shows how poorly they've been run. I mean, look at the Shamar Stewart situation in the summer. You know, he was very much viewed a boom or bust prospect coming out of college. He pretty much set out the entire offseason over this contract dispute. And then lo and behold, he's come into the league and played after that silly contract dispute, and he's been terrible. And now he's injured. So it's just like, they seem to just draft busts all the time outside of Chase and Burrow and Higgins. So like, they are just poor. They're really poor, from ownership down to GM. I'm not convinced on Zach Taylor as a head coach. They fired their DC last year. This one's bound to follow him out the door this season. I'd be really frustrated if I was a Bengals fan, because you're in the Super Bowl 3 years ago and you're so close in many regards, but you're also so far away because, like, your defensive side of the ball is so bad.
So just a quick one. Bengals have made some roster moves. They've activated tight end Mike Gesicki to the roster from IR. They signed defensive end Isaiah Foskey off the practice squad to the active roster. They've placed quarterback Cam Taylor-Britt on IR due to a foot injury. Well, Cam Taylor-Britt is their only decent player they got on their secondary anyway. So, I
think their safety play may even be worse than ours. And that's what happens when you let Jesse Bates walk out the door, who's, you know, arguably one of the best free safeties in the NFL, who was in that building, and they let him go. And that's, again, another poor decision. And then they wonder why they're getting, you know, no defensive success. Well, if you let good players walk and you keep drafting and signing bad ones, what do you expect?
Yeah, but now, unfortunately, Jesse Bates is in a different kind of hell in Atlanta.
Yeah.
So there we go. The Bengals offense, okay, is still one of the highest scoring in the NFL. Okay, it will put points on you. You know, the line's not great, but the Joe Flacco, since he's come in, has actually done a really, really remarkable job. I don't think there's anything we could really say negative about the situation. The problem is, though, I don't like Joe Flacco, because I do recall every time he's played against us as Patriots, we get PTSD because he just turns into fucking Thanos for the game, and he just knows how to play. He's it's like when he plays the Steelers. He's a studied veteran. He knows that defense inside and out. Is he going to be able to work out Vrabel's? Was he going to work out Terrell Williams' defense? Let's put it that way.
I think it's a part of it is down to the fact that they've been so behind in games that he's had no choice but to sling the ball down the field and try and create big plays. I mean, there was the Bears game where they were in that game and probably should have won that, but then gave up the deep score to Loveland late on. You know, they gave up 39 points to the Jets, but obviously, you know, they had to go all guns blazing to try and keep up in that game. So that's kind of like the offensive recipe for the Bengals and for Joe Flacco, is that they genuinely just need to throw the ball the entire game to have any chance of winning. Their run game has been really bad this year. You know, Chase Brown has taken a step back, but I think a lot of that is probably game script because they are down so big a lot of the time. And the offensive line has been a huge problem. You know, I think they're pretty set at left tackle with Orlando Brown, but their interior is, you know, okay, we like Ted Karras. You know, he was a good player for us, but like, he's not an elite center. He's probably solid. Their two guards are grading really poorly this year. And then Amarius Mims at right tackle is having a terrible year. So, like, they are genuinely handicapped by that as well. So I think a lot of that plays into the fact that Flacco just has to throw the ball down the field. And that's probably why he's thrown so many interceptions as well. Like, he's just taking risks. And they don't really have a choice but to play that way.
They don't really. It's very one-dimensional. So for New England going into this game, you know, it should be relatively straightforward. Now, Chase Brown, I still think is a threat at the running back position. I still think he could garner up some yards, but he is going up against one of the most stingiest run defenses in the NFL. I think the Pats are ranked second still, if I'm not mistaken. So,
yeah, obviously, naturally not having Milton Williams.
No, I'll take that back. We're number one. Yeah. Number one rush defense in the NFL. So they're going to find it very difficult there.
They will. Obviously, no Milton Williams, but there's still enough depth at that position to hold up there, definitely.
Yeah, there is. Definitely is. What would you say the game plan could be for New England because obviously they don't run the ball well. Would you say, do you think you'll see a lot more zone in this game? Because we did pester last week. Why the hell was we playing a lot of zone against the Jets when they can't?
Oh, it was man we played against the Jets.
Oh, that was man we played against the Jets.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I think we'll probably continue with a bit of man coverage because obviously we've got to deal with the threat of T. Higgins, and now whether that's a 1v1 matchup with Gonzalez or whether we double T. Higgins and let Gonzalez, you know, take Joseph Ass 1-on-1, you know, that remains to be seen. I think the defensive game plan will just be to try and get pressure on Joe Flacco as much as possible before the defense gasses out, because we've seen late in games where, you know, with the lack of depth at the edge rusher position, like, you know, the likes of Landry and Chason have, you know, played a lot of snaps and they're tired by the end of the game. So just getting pressure on Flacco, you know, trying to get pressure on that really poor offensive line and try and force turnovers. You know, I think that's important to try and force turnovers in this game. You know, Flacco's going to take shots. You know, you should be looking to try and pick him off at least once or twice. You know, try and get some you know, stack up 3 or 4 sacks at least really against that line. So I think that'll be the defensive game plan. And I think in terms of the offense, you know, it very much is a pick your poison for Cincinnati because they're just so poor in all phases when it comes to the defensive side of the ball. We've got so many different ways we can hurt them. You know, they're weak against the run, so Travion Henderson can have another big day. They're the worst team in the NFL against tight ends, so that brings Hunter Henry into play. And then they're struggling against receivers as well in terms of yards given up. Now, they've only given up 6 passing touchdowns, I believe, but I think that's because a lot of teams have ran the ball inside the red zone and they've not been able to defend it. So, like, I still think that we can get a lot of joy from the receiver position, especially with Kayshon Boutte back. I feel like if we win the coin toss, we've got to take the ball straight away. No deferring to the second half. Take the ball, put a touchdown on the board, and see how they respond. I think if we can try and get up early and dictate the flow of the game, I think that's how we can win it comfortably.
The offensive line for us has got better over the last few games that I have noticed. Will Campbell hasn't given up any sacks. Jared Wilson looked like probably had his best game last week against the Jets. Done well. When it looked like he was back to his best again, Moses did a good job. Garrett Bradbury, again, might be small, but he's still done his bit. There isn't really a lot to look out for on this Cincinnati front line that can really troublesome. So I expect Drake Maye to, I would say, be sack-free in this game, but that's never a case in any NFL game. I would expect him, though, to have quite a few clean pockets in this game, and the more time he gets, that's bad news.
Yeah, I do think there'll be clean pockets. I think he'll step up, look to keep throwing the ball down the field, trying to exploit those gaps. I think he's not been afraid to push the ball downfield when needed to. Obviously having Boutte back in this game is great because he's got his kind of downfield threat down the sideline. I'd imagine that he's going to have a fair bit of joy with that. And likewise with the running game, they've really struggled against the run, and the way that Travion Henderson is playing at the moment, like you can establish a run game there with Travion. You've got Ramondre Stevenson coming back to be the spell back. I can't imagine he's going to take a massive chunk of carries away from Henderson. I think he'll probably be the 1B, depending on game script, of course, but you can't take the hot hand away. I feel like this could be Maye's first career 300-yard game, and the game that maybe sort of propels him further in front in the MVP race, because he could seriously put up some big numbers. Interestingly, on Fantasy Game Day UK, shout out to them. I play with them every week. Maye is the joint most expensive quarterback on the 6 p.m. slate on Sunday, for obvious reasons. I think Drake Maye has been the number one fantasy QB for a lot of this season. I'm not sure if he still is, but that is the reason why, because Maye could put up some serious numbers in this game. I want to see a 300-yard, 3-touchdown game, from him in this. Like really stamp his foot down on that MVP race, and really light the Bengals up.
I think that will happen. I don't think there's no chance that, if Drake Maye throws for another 250, 260, we're not going to be annoyed about it, but it's like this Bengals defense is nothing. This is where you need to assert your dominance now, I think, because at some point you're going to run into teams that are going to put points on our defense, and it's going to be down to you to keep racking up the score. So this is the perfect game where I would just say, put your foot on the throat, go through 3 quarters, put 40 points on them, shut them down to 20 points or something, and then just go in the 4th quarter and then just calm it down. I think New England have got this game. I mean, there's a few analysts. I call analysts very, very loosely. Have chosen the Bengals to win. I would like to know what optimistic drugs that they are on, please. But most of the main culprits have all gone for a Pats win. There's no one else, not even NFL Network, have gone for a Bengals win.
Obviously, if Joe Burrow plays in this game, which in the last couple of hours it seems like that's still not a certainty. I think it might have been Ian Rappaport. Someone referenced the fact that this happened with Baltimore, where Lamar Jackson practiced in full but still didn't play at the weekend, because they wanted to make sure he was ready. You got to remember the Bengals play on Thursday Night Football next week on Thanksgiving, so it's important not to throw Joe Burrow into the deep end of playing 2 games in 5 days off the back of a 2-month injury.
A desperate franchise will do desperate things.
Yeah, but ultimately their season is in the balance. I don't think it's one of them where like it's an absolute must-win game in terms of like they feel like they're in reach, and if Burrow plays, it gives them the edge. Like I don't think they're in that position. I mean, yes, their division's pretty weak, but I still think that they're well beyond competing for that, because even if Burrow comes back, the defense ain't getting better, is it? So
nope. That's the thing. It was never the case. It was never the problem. Joe Burrow was never the problem. The defense was the problem. Joe Burrow was putting up 40 points. The problem is the defense was giving up 43 points. So
exactly.
Anyway,
so
the Bengals schedule after we finish ripping their spleens out this weekend, it's Ravens, Bills, Ravens again, Dolphins, Cardinals, Browns.
Oh my God! So
they're not making the postseason.
They've got Patriots, Ravens twice, and Bills in their next 4 games.
In their next 4 games, they play the team that's leading the AFC. They're hated rivals in the AFC North, and they play the Bills team that's trying to still hang on in there and for a wild card spot.
Yeah, so like they genuinely could. They might as well just look ahead to the draft at what players they could whiff on again, because
which is why I can understand why Joe Burrow is going on. He's paid to do a job. He's paid to do a job, but also
naturally you want to watch Joe Burrow play. It's much better watching Joe Burrow play as an elite quarterback than it is watching Joe Flacco at 40 years old.
Because really the only games that have got any sort of significance, it's the Ravens and the Bills. The Dolphins, nah, they're not going to be in anytime soon. Cardinals, no, they're dead. And then the Browns, well, they're definitely dead. So really, the only 3 games. If we find out he doesn't play 4 p.m. Eastern tomorrow, we find out if Joe Burrow is being activated or not. If he isn't, it will be Joe Flacco. If he does, he will start, and he will have 1, 2, 3, 4 games against teams that are in the are in or try to fight for the postseason. And I generally don't feel. What are you garnering from that? What are you garnering from that? I just
they would need to go on a run to have any chance. I mean, I know the Steelers have come back down to earth a little bit, and the Ravens are kind of responded a bit from their blip now that Lamar's back, and like they have a chance. Like if they were to win out, like they could easily still win the division, but that's easier said than done. And like I said before, yes, Joe Burrow being back gives you a better chance to win, but he's not playing all 11 defensive positions. Like your defense is still the worst in the NFL, and you're still going to find yourself in games that you're going to lose because they can't get a stop. Yeah, I don't think it really matters that much. I wouldn't rush him back. I mean, if he plays in this game, like I said to the boys in the chat earlier, if he plays in this game, it makes them more competitive on the offensive side of the ball. Like you would think that, I don't know, if you're throwing out a point line at the moment, say with Joe Flacco, they could score, I don't know, 17 to 20 points or whatever. But if Burrow plays, you might add another score on top of that to say, well, they're more likely to score more points with Joe Burrow in the team, even with Jamar Chase missing.
Yeah.
But that still doesn't mean that they're not going to ship 30 plus on the other side of the ball. So as much as it makes it more competitive and gives them a little bit more of a fighting chance, it really doesn't matter that much when they're so bad defensively and they're playing an absolute shit hot offense with the MVP at quarterback.
Yeah, it doesn't make a difference whatsoever. The only way they could get in is if they actually if they sweep the Ravens and the Steelers completely and utterly collapse.
Yeah,
that's the only way I could see that happening. But I don't trust this. I don't trust this Bengals defense. So, it. So it's going to be interesting. I'm looking forward to this game. I'm looking forward to seeing what our offense can really do. Okay, it's a bad defense, but obviously we do have a little bit of injuries on our front. Milton Williams on IR now for the next 4 games, not 4 weeks as someone put out there. Nope, it's 4 games. So he misses Bengals, he misses the Giants, then on the bye week, and then he misses the Bills and the Ravens. Of the 2 games I didn't want him to miss, it had to be the 2 that, we need to prove that we are top dogs in this.
Absolutely, yeah. I think more in particular against the Ravens because of the way that they run with Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson. But it's looking pretty much a certainty now, Carl, that we're going to be in the playoffs. And if you can get Milton Williams back for the playoffs, then that's more important. I feel like we can still afford to lose those 2 games against the Bills and the Ravens and still win the division after what happened last night with Buffalo. Although you look at Buffalo now and think we're at home in that game, we could win that quite easily. We've already beaten them on the road. We could lose to Baltimore, but that could be the only loss remaining on the schedule, and then we finish the season 14-3. So, I genuinely, as much as it's not ideal having Milton Williams, to have him back for the games that matter in the postseason is way, way more important. And I just hope he gets right because he's been such a difference maker for us. Such a good, justified the contract very much. We paid him a lot of money. We swooped in late to take him away from Carolina, and he's justified it. He's been fantastic.
Sorry, I've got a bit of a cold, so I do probably have coffee down my microphone here. If say we beat Cincinnati, the Giants, and then after the bye week, we then end up then we somehow beat the Bills and we somehow beat the Ravens. Would you bring Milton Williams back for the final 2 games, considering the gauntlet you've just ran through in the last 4?
If we got the 1 seed locked up, then I could see the argument for no.
Not that early.
It'll be interesting. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see kind of what the landscape of the conference looks like at that point and how we approach the final 2 games if that is the case. Do we, particularly in the final game of the season against the Dolphins, do we do we rest our starters? And, if we've got the 1 seed locked up, do you rest? Buffalo done that against us last year and we blew them out with Joe Milton at quarterback. Like, we could lose that game based on the fact we might not have any starters playing.
Let me transport you back to a decade ago, 2015. New England was sitting at 12-2. The last 2 games, the Jets on the road and the Dolphins at home. Guess what? We fucking pissed both them games away. And do you know what we did? We went 12-4. Guess who else went 12-4 that season? Denver. And because they beat us in the regular season in overtime, they got home field advantage. And we lost them in the AFC Championship. I will say this right here, right now. If there is one place I do not want to go to come playoff time, or at least the AFC Championship, is Mile High. That is a house of horrors when it comes to the Patriots. I don't want to face Denver in Denver. I'll face Denver when they come to us, but not when we go to theirs.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how we match up against Denver, because we're kind of like the polar opposites of each other, really. Like, we have the explosive, dynamic offense and, a pretty solid but not elite defense. Or, in some phases we've been pretty good. But they have an elite defense, but offensively they're pretty bad. Like, they're not great offensively. So that game, like, how do you cancel each other out? Like, yeah, I don't think they've got the firepower to keep up with us, but also
it's either going to be a stink fest or a fireworks display. It's going to be one or the other.
So that would be an interesting matchup. But like I said, it all depends if you've wrapped the 1 seed up, or if you're in a position where you haven't officially wrapped it up, but barring unforeseen circumstances, you're pretty much going to get it. But, we're a long way off that yet.
Yeah, we are a long way off that. So a couple of injuries to keep. Also, the other injuries to keep an eye on. This was on Thursday, by the way, so now we can think to see about. Jelani Tavai has now been ruled out of the game. Not injury-related, personal reasons. No, I don't like it when it's personal. It might be family-related, or there's something going on behind the scenes which we're not wary about. So the first time Jelani Tavai has had some discrepancy issues, shall we say. He had that blowout, didn't he, last year? But hopefully it's nothing too problematic. Questionable Harold Landry with the knee. Well, we knew Harold Landry was gassed anyway. I watched him in the game against the Jets and he just looked buggered. He looked absolutely royally buggered in that game. And I probably think this is why now New England have now elevated our 5th round pick, our defensive end out of LSU, Braden Swinson.
Yeah.
Which I'm very excited to see, by the way, to see how he gets on. Because this Bengals offensive line isn't particularly that great. So Swinson might actually perform in this game. Hopefully, anyway.
Yeah, I was a big fan of Swinson coming into the draft process. Was very surprised to see him drop to round 5 after a very productive season at LSU. And especially as most draft analysts had him in the 2nd, 3rd round range. So to get him in round 5, I thought was a steal. Obviously, he blindsided a little bit by the fact that he didn't make the initial 53-man roster. So it shows how raw he was.
Yeah, I reckon if no one was going to tap him up, I think he would have been redshirted.
Yeah. Well, essentially, it is a redshirt season. But he didn't have any elevations for the practice squad. But now he's been signed fully. And interestingly, it came out and said that he turned down offers to join 53-man rosters.
One of them was Buffalo, by the way.
Yeah, one with Buffalo. I think the Eagles were potentially one of them as well. But he said he'd rather stay here and ultimately got signed to our 53. So I'd like to see how he is potentially used if he's active on the Sunday. Obviously, there's no guarantee that's going to happen. I do think with what we've seen with the edge rusher situation is, I don't think they seem overly sold on Anthony Jennings. He's certainly not a scheme fit in this defense. As much as he's a solid player and a great edge setter and a good run defender, I wonder whether Jennings might be the one that gets bumped here, because Ponder and Swinson give you some juice off the edge. If you're going to play your first 2 downs are going to be Chase on and Landry. On 3rd down, obvious pass situations, do you bring in Ponder and Swinson and let them use their speed and their juice to try and win and create pressure? So I do wonder whether that might be the case. Now, Swinson could be inactive for all we know. It might be too early for him, but it's important for him to be on the 53 because I still believe he's a talented player and he can be a contributor. And we need that beyond Chason and Landry because they are looking tired. And yeah, I agree with you, Carl. Landry did look gassed in that Jets game, but he's now just had 10 days to recover. So you'd like to think with a bit of extra rest because he was on a short week after that. After that game before the Jets, went into the Jets game a short week. Older players feel that a bit more with a bit of a rest now. Hopefully, you'll see Landry a bit more juiced up in this game. I do think we will see another chase on sack in this game.
I think we will.
He's our sack leader. He lines up primarily over the right tackle, which is a big problem for the Bengals. As I said, they're pretty solid at left tackle. So I wonder if we'll see another chase on sack. Interestingly, I think it might have been Kevin Patra from NFL.com said that Chason is a dark horse Pro Bowl candidate for this year, which I thought was very interesting because it's not just the sacks, it's the tackles for loss, it's the pressure rate. Like he has genuinely had a really good year, and he's found a home, right? Like he's been a late bloomer, was a first round pick in 2020, I think it was. First few years in the league with the Jacksonville Jaguars, with Carolina, not great. It never really lived up to the hype. Goes to Vegas, has a little bit of a renaissance, does quite well. We sign him on a 1-year cheap deal, and he's had his breakout season. And the guy's still only 26 years old as well. Like this is why he has to get a 3 or 4 year extension for me. Like he's earned that, and he's become a really, really reliable edge rusher for us. So I definitely think we might see a chase on sack.
Well, regarding Boutte and Stevenson, I think I found out that he's about to be signed into the 48-man starting roster. So if that is the case, we're going to see some snaps out of him in that game. But I will transition a little bit just before we get back on topic, and that was watching that Thursday night football game between the Bills and the Texans. Will Anderson and Daniil Hunter. Oh, I want some of that in the draft. Whoever that is, because that's what we need. I was watching Will Anderson for that entire game, and my God, he is a relentless beast.
Yeah, he
relentless.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we're going to be looking like we're going to pick mid to late 20s based on our season. We're not going to get a Ruben Bain at the top of the draft.
Unless he gets injured now. Unless he gets injured, then we might drop down.
It'd be interesting to see how we approach edge rusher this offseason in terms of free agency. Obviously, Hendrickson will be available. I don't know who else we'll try and get. And then the draft, it kind of begs the question, doesn't it, of what will be the priority in round one? Will you want edge? Will you want to keep loading up this defense? Will you want to find another corner? Do you want, I've been an advocate of finding the next right tackle, when Morgan Moses' time comes to an end. If you can have 2 young bookend tackles, then that with Will Campbell, that'll be a real positive. Some people are going to clamour for wide receiver. Personally, I wouldn't pick a receiver in the first round because I don't think that's anywhere close to being an issue for us. Diggs has been great. Boutte's been great. Hollins has been great. Pop's had his moments. You need to see more out of Kyle Williams, but you've got enough on the roster where you could probably, if you want to take a receiver, you can take one in the middle round. So, yeah, I'm with you, Carl. I think if you can get an edge rusher at the back end of the first round, then I think that would definitely be in the conversation. I've seen a few links to who is the guy. It might be from Stanford. I might be getting the school completely wrong, but there's is it David Bailey? I think it is.
He's going middle rounds.
Yeah,
he's going middle rounds. If he drops to us, take it because I was keeping an eye on him.
Projections probably like the teens, maybe early 20s. We might not fall in range, but if we can try and pick up someone like that, that can come in and be a difference maker straight away, you're still going to have Landry and Chase on next year. Hopefully, if Chase on extends, then you're bringing in a rookie edge rusher to be the third, really, aren't you? So that's not a lot of you can fit them in the rotation. So yeah, I'm intrigued to see where they go with it. I wonder if they'll look into free agency first, but obviously you've got the draft, and yeah, that's definitely an area of need going forward for sure.
Yeah, Aiden, we could do our very own Aiden Hutchinson. We can, really.
I mean, he's a generational player. I honestly, again, I know Trayvon Walker's not turned out to be an overly bad player, but the Jags fumbled that pick massively. Like, genuinely, when I done my draft evaluations going into the 2022 draft, like, there was no comparison for me. Like, Aiden Hutchinson was levels above Trayvon Walker, but unfortunately, they bought into the Georgia Bulldogs hype and expected to have a generational pass rusher on a generational college defense. But you're not getting the entire defense. You're getting one player who had one good season, whereas Hutchinson, you could tell he was going to be an absolute game wrecker for what he was doing at Michigan. Like, I cannot believe that they didn't pick Hutchinson over Walker. It's mental.
Yeah, it is mental. It is mental. Okay. As I said, we haven't got a guest on tonight, so it's a little bit of a short preview. More to the point, it's Cincinnati. It's only someone you could beat the dead horse with, and then you're like, right, okay, where do we move? Where do we go on to next? We'll have a little bit of a diversion though, because I think we will talk a little bit about what we saw or what we witnessed last night of our certain division rivals. How to put it in the politest way possible, shitting the bed against Houston.
Yeah.
They got to be very careful because now they are running out of chances now to hold on to their division.
Well, yeah, they're in serious peril at the moment in terms of their hopes for the division, because not only have you now lost another game and you're already 2.5 games back with a negative tiebreaker against the Patriots, but the Patriots have now got 2 very winnable games ahead of them, starting with this weekend where we can make that 3.5 games and a tiebreaker. We then play the Giants on Monday Night Football at home, which you'd fancy us to win as well. And then we have a nice little bye week rest before we play Buffalo at home. So if I'm Buffalo, like, I'm a bit worried because they've got some tough games coming up. We've spoken about how, our 2 toughest games are Buffalo and Baltimore, but the Bills have still got to play Philadelphia. They've still got to play. Have they got to play Pittsburgh as well?
Yeah.
They can't afford to They probably can't afford to lose anymore. If they win out, including beating us, they still have a chance for the division. But can you really see them winning out at this stage? I struggle to see it. I think they've got vulnerabilities defensively, particularly against the run. They've got an excellent running back who's great to watch. Josh Allen is Josh Allen, although he's turned the ball over quite a lot this year. I think the biggest issue, and I don't know whether Dante, my mate, is still watching live at the moment, Bills fan. I think the biggest issue is Josh Allen ain't got anyone to throw to. Like, with Dalton Kincaid out, they really struggle. Khalil Shakir is a fine slot receiver, but he's a slot receiver. They've got nothing on the outside. Keon Coleman has basically just been ousted now because of his off-the-field antics. And Josh Allen is expected to play hero ball with nothing around him. And I think that is a huge, huge issue for Buffalo when you're trying to chase a division and you need to win some big games. And it's going to take a lot for them to catch us.
As I said, they've had 5 years of dominance. They've had 5 years. They had to get to a Super Bowl. I would say they would have to win one, but they'd have to get to a Super Bowl in that time. And sadly, they haven't. And what did I say to you when we beat the Bills? I said, well, you wasn't on here, but when we did our review show, I basically said you should have, you should have cut the head of the monster. You should have cut the head of the monster off instead of going for the heart. And guess what? We're back, and we're back in a different form, and even deadlier version of us. So
it's just the worst year for them to have a blip, really, isn't it?
It's a poor one, especially as well. The Ravens are struggling right now. The Chiefs are struggling right now.
Yeah.
The 2 main culprits that obviously the Chiefs is your main culprit, but you know what I mean? The Bengals are bungled, no Joe Burrow and so on. This is the perfect opportunity for you to actually go out and
the door's been been wide open, like you said, Carl. Like their main rivals for the AFC, when you look at the 4 big guns in the AFC going into the season, 3 of them have flopped and the door's been wide open and they've not capitalized on that. And it's just so happened that in the season that they're not, not having a great year, that their one team in their own division has been like a phoenix rising from the ashes and has completely usurped them as the top team in the division after the first 11 weeks of the season. Like, yes, there's still time to go, but it's hard to see them. It's hard to see them catching us at this rate. With the games we've got coming up, with what we've got with the lead already, with the tiebreaker, with the bye week, and with them still to come at home, where they will be under enormous pressure, I genuinely can't see them catching us for the division now. Like last night was a huge, huge dent.
It was. So thank you, Houston. Josh will be with the Rams in a couple of years' time, I reckon. I mean, Stafford. I mean, if let's just say the Rams win the Super Bowl this time round, Stafford could retire. 2-time Super Bowl champion, go out on a high. That's it. Done what I've had to do. It'll be our first. It'll be. I would
be fearful to see what Sean McVay could do with the quarterback of Josh Allen's ability.
Yeah, the NFL's not ready for that.
I don't know whether we will see changes in Buffalo in the offseason in terms of like McDermott's done a pretty solid job there, but he's had a long time and they've never got over the line. It makes you wonder whether how much longer he's got of being the nearly man, really.
Yeah.
And especially this is a guy who tried to I still can't believe this ever happened. A guy who tried to like motivate his team by giving them a speech on planning and by referencing 9/11. Like, I mean, what in the world was he on about? Like, in terms of like the way like things are planned thoroughly and executed thoroughly and as a unit, like how can you use one of the biggest like terrorist disasters ever?
Only reason I say that is because his wife's always obviously in Hollywood, so he's gonna go anywhere. He's gonna want to be close to his. I mean, true, very true.
I mean, it would be.
I would rather stay in LA than Western New York, or put it that way. But I think we all would.
Yeah, I think like we've seen the Rams pull off big trades before. They are very much a trade heavy team with Les Snead, the GM. We've seen them before where they almost didn't draft a first round pick. Was it for 9 years? They just kept trading away their picks and acquiring big talent. If any team is going to pull off a trade like that, it would be the Rams. So I don't think that's a bad shout. I think it would take a lot for Buffalo to pull the trigger on getting rid of Josh Allen. I feel like the coaching staff would probably be first. The general manager might be that. I feel like Josh Allen's probably the least likely from Buffalo's perspective to be moved. But it's an interesting debate.
They're your words, not mine, Dante. They're your words, not mine. All right. I didn't say that. I just said LA is a much better place to live in than Western New York. I mean,
LA is also a massive shithole for anyone that's been.
If you go to the wrong places, and yes,
yes,
to the nicer places, then it's actually really small. But anyway, I digress. Right.
Before we go into predictions, Carl, I want to do a bit of trivia because I know Nick likes to do this on our Tuesday show, right?
Okay, I could do a little bit of that.
So I watched back on NFL Vault, I think it was called, or NFL Throwback or whatever it was. They put up the highlights from the "We're on to Cincinnati" game in 2014, the infamous "We're on to Cincinnati" Bill Belichick quote after our 2-2 start to the 2014 season. We won that game 43-17, and it was actually really entertaining. We rushed for over 220 yards in that game. Ridley had 113 yards. Vereen had 90. The leading receiver was Rob Gronkowski with 100 yards and a touchdown and 6 catches.
Of course.
But can you tell me who the second leading receiver was on the team? Because I watched this game, and I thought, and I remember the player. Don't get me wrong. I remember the player. But I was thinking, Christ, I don't remember him being on a mad one. So this player, if you can try and name him, Carl, had 5 receptions for 85 yards and a touchdown.
We had a receiver First thing first, it's not Edelman.
No, Edelman had 5 catches for 35 yards.
No, Dante, it's not Greg Dolchich either.
I don't think Greg Dulcich was probably out of middle school then.
Or middle school by then. Brandon LaFell?
No, Brandon LaFell only had 1 reception for 20 yards.
Receiver, not tight end.
Pass catcher.
Pass catcher, right. What does that mean? Did he play receiver or did he play tight end?
Like I said, it wasn't. I don't think it's someone that would necessarily jump out of you. But I remember the player. As soon as I first saw the first catch, I was like, "Oh yeah, I remember him." But it's very unconventional. And when you see the stat line of 5 for 85 and 1, you think, "Bloody hell!" And watch him in the game, and you think, "Bloody hell, he's on a tear here." Do you want a clue?
Yes, please.
We acquired him in a trade with the Lions.
Oh, Fletch is going to kill me if I don't get this one then.
No?
Was it Chris? Nah, it's not Chris Hogan, is it?
No. Season too early for Chris Hogan.
Season too early for Chris Hogan. Right, okay. Okay, he was at 2016, wasn't he? No, I've gone blank.
Okay. No one messaging in with any potential answers? No? Apart from Greg Dulcich. Okay, so for those wondering, in the 43-17 victory for New England against Cincinnati, in the infamous we're on to Cincinnati game, the Patriots' second leading receiver was backup tight end Tim Wright, who had 5 catches for 85 yards and a touchdown.
No, I definitely wouldn't have got that one.
I was watching it the other day. I was like, oh my God, I don't remember Tim Wright being this good.
I don't remember Tim Wright either. Let's have a look at Tim. I'm going to look at. All right, let's have a look at this. It was a Tim Wright. Let's have a look. Tim Wright.
Obviously, we all remember Michael Humanawanui, who was the backup tight end for a while to Gronk. But yeah, Tim Wright, who came over from the Lions on an absolute tear against the Bengals in 2014.
So I'm just trying to think about it. So he had 26 receptions in his career at the Patriots, 26 receptions, 259 yards, 6 touchdowns. He played 11 games. He was in the Super Bowl against Seattle, but he made no catches recorded during that game. So Salam Boy was a blocking tight end, but obviously they wanted to try something a little bit more different. Yeah. Okay. Well, I wasn't going to get that. I wasn't going to get that at all. But anyway,
anyone watching along, just go back and watch the highlights of that game, and you'll know what I'm talking about. He looked like Kyle Pitts out there.
Is he related to you? Like, get the fuck out of here. Okay, all right, let's get to our predictions. DJ and Nick have already given us ours. We're going to say this right now. We've spoken a lot of how bad this Bengals defense is. Yet these two Wazzocks have gone for a 21-16 and a 24-20. So basically, we're not covering the spread. That's what they're trying to say. It's like, oh, but it's Cincy, it's Joe Flacco. No one gives a shit. The Bengals are shit defensively. We've said this.
Look,
anyway,
their point in the chat, Carl, was they think this game will be a lot closer than we think. I completely respect that, and I can see where they're coming from. But if the Bengals are going to play this close, they're going to have to score a lot of points to make that possible. I just think the whole 24-20, 21-16, whatever they've gone for, is just way too low for us. Remember, this is a team on historically bad levels that have given up 27 or more points in 9 games in a row. So, like, the probability favors that New England will score over 27 points in this game. So the Bengals are going to need to score probably at least 30 to have any chance of beating us. They have the capability to do that. But I don't think it will be as low scoring as they say. I just don't think it's possible. Like, I think they're that bad defensively that it will just, if they're going to have any chance of winning, they're going to need to make it a high scoring game. So that's just my view on it.
Okay, Dante's, but I predict Drake Maye scores 312 passing yards.
Yeah,
okay,
I could see that. That's very specific, but I could see that.
Yeah, that's fine. Very specific indeed. Right, what's your prediction then?
Yeah, I think I'm pretty certain where I want to go on this. I still think that we'll cover the spread. I think we'll score over 27 points like most teams have been doing against Cincy. I do think they've got enough on offense to still score a decent amount of points chasing the game, particularly in garbage time. I still think they can have some joy against us with their tight ends. Now, Mike Gesicki's back. Noah Fant's still been pretty effective for them. So I'm going to go Patriots 31, Bengals 20.
Oh, okay. We was almost for a bingo, bango, bungle there because I also got the same amount of points. Actually, you, me, and Nick have got the same amount of points the Cincinnati Bengals are going to score, which is 20 points.
Yeah, I could see them scoring 20 points.
However, whilst DJ and Nick have gone for the low 20s, you have gone for the 30s, which at least I have a model of respect for.
Yeah.
Where's my thing? There it is. I'm gonna be polite when I say this. I actually think we're gonna drop 40 on these.
I thought about it.
So my prediction is 43-20.
43-20. Okay.
It's going to be belt to ass. I can see it. It's going to be belt to ass. So
I did think about another sort of Carolina scoreline. You know, we put 40 on them. I thought about maybe going 38 points and maybe going for another touchdown, but I'll go with 31. 31-20, 11 points, cover the spread, still a decent victory.
I mean, this is the first time I've ever gone for a 40-burger win, but you don't say that until and the opposing defense is just this bad. So I'm sorry, but
just to keep Dante happy, how many touchdowns does Travion Henderson score this week?
2.
Yeah, I feel like it's 2 as well.
I feel it'll be 2. Drake Maye will throw for 3 touchdowns. Travion Henderson will run in for 2. And I also think, and this might be a bit clickbaity here, but I think one of our safeties is going to get a pick 6.
Okay.
I'm going to have either Hawkins or Woodson's going to get a pick 6.
Okay. I like that. I would like to see Gonzo get a pick. You know, he hasn't had one this season.
I want Gonzo to get an interception.
Yeah,
not a pick 6. Because he hasn't had an interception all
Spillane's
season.
good value for one as well, throwing over the middle. Like, he's picked up a couple. Yeah, that wouldn't not be a bad idea. I'm going to also put it out there that Hunter Henry will score a touchdown in this game because the Bengals are tight ends are abysmal. And I feel like they've been abysmal against tight ends for about 5 years. They've still not figured out how to defend a tight end. Now, we are also
talking of which, you've also got Austin Hooper back as well.
Yeah.
So
Hunter Henry, anytime touchdown scorer for me as well.
Okay, fair enough. Right. Let's move into the Blazing Six then, shall we? We don't have our guests on, so we can't really go much on what happened. But last week was quite intriguing. I'm now taking back the lead. I take the power back. I'm now on 44 points. Kieren is now right behind me on 43, and our guest is stuck on 32. But obviously, we only play these games when we have our guest on. So obviously, this week's another dud week for us. Hopefully, we will get a Giants fan on next week to do this with us. We got 6. I can't even say I don't even have a crap game on my schedule here. I really, really don't. So
you're telling me you've not put Browns Raiders on this game?
Oh no, that is on there, but that's all. But that's good for all the wrong reasons. Anyway, let's start with the top off the bat. Colts at Chiefs. Chiefs are favored by -3.
God.
Will the Chiefs lose a 3rd game in a row? Because that's never happened before.
This is really tough because they need to get their arse in gear massively. But do I trust Danny Dimes on the road at Arrowhead? I think the answer is no.
Well, just to maybe swerve your mind, the Chiefs are 0-5 in one-score games this season.
Yeah.
If it's close, I wouldn't go Chiefs.
I'm gonna go Chiefs win, Colts cover.
Chiefs win, Colts cover. And this is where I know how to deflect off anybody, because I'm going to go Chiefs, and they're gonna cover the points. I think they have to get a win here. Kansas City, they're under massive trouble now.
Yeah.
So I've got them on that one. Next one, Steelers at Bears. Bears are favored by -2.5.
Yeah, take the Bears.
Well, that
was very, very quick. I think the Steelers are massive pretenders, and Aaron Rodgers has been banged up. Might still play this weekend, but Chicago are on an absolute surge at the moment. So, yeah, I'll take Bears.
Yeah, I will agree on that one as well, because Steelers, I don't know about them. They're just a bipolar team. I've got no idea what they're going to turn out like. If they don't get turnovers, they don't win the game. Simple as. Steelers have to generate turnovers to win the games. Okay, now we will go on to the shit game. Cleveland at the Raiders. The Raiders are favored by -4. Shedeur Sanders makes his full start.
The Raiders are -4.
-4, yeah.
Give me those brownies at the points as well. I genuinely think, I mean, this game's going to be disgusting, right? But the Raiders' offense, despite the fact they have Brock Bowers, remember Ashton Genty ran for 7 yards on 6 carries last week? Geno Smith is an absolute abomination. Like, why that's still a thing, I have no idea. And he's even like chipping at fans and the press about him. You know, the Raiders' offensive line is awful. The Raiders' defense is awful. I feel like Myles Garrett could have another 5 sacks in this game. I think they can just run Judkins into the ground. And Shedeur Sanders, with a full week of prep, you'd think the performance would be better, and the matchup's a lot better as well. He's not playing against the Ravens, you know. He might take a couple of sacks, might turn the ball over, but the full week of prep.
You say that, but the Ravens have got the 26th ranked defense in the NFL. The Raiders have actually got the 17th ranked defense in the NFL.
I still think this Raiders defense is cack. So yeah, so I'm taking Browns at the points in this one. I think they'll win. I genuinely think that the Raiders are awful. So, yeah, Browns.
Well, I'm going to put my nuts on the table here, and I'm going to have the Raiders to win, but the Browns to cover.
Okay.
So I just think all this talk about how Shedeur's going to do, how he should do. This is just going to build up to him just completely falling flat on his ass.
Well, he might do, but I think he's better than Dylan Gabriel. So, at least he was taking.
Oh wow, wow. Okay, well, we've just hit a new low there. It's not exactly something to write home about. Anyway, this is an intriguing one. Eagles at Cowboys. Eagles are favored by -3.
Yeah, I'll take the Eagles. At the points.
For the first time ever, you and I have gone different ways. You've gone for the Eagles to take the points. I'm going for Dallas. Okay. You want to know why?
Go on.
Because Dallas, in their last 23 games at home against NFC East opposition, are 21-2. Their last loss to an NFC East team was back in 2017.
Okay, fair enough. I just don't see how they're going to...
And the Cowboys perform better in Jerry World than what they were doing at the Link.
Oh, they do. And I certainly think they've got the offense to keep up in this game. I just don't trust their defense at all. And if Philly can, you know, actually play offense for once, they'll have no issues. If Jalen Hurts is actually allowed to throw the ball, because I genuinely think their OC might be a football terrorist, where he has about 4 plays in his playbook and then they punt. if they actually let Jalen Hurts throw the ball down the field, which we know he can do, then I feel like they've got too much for the Dallas Cowboys to deal with.
Okay, well, we'll see about that. Okay, Sunday Night Football. Bucks at Rams.
Oh, corker.
Rams -7-point favorites.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Bucks are in a bit of trouble, aren't they? Because this will be another loss. They'd be 6
I can't remember who it was. I think it might have been Nick Wright. He said a few weeks ago, the Bucks will go from Friday now 6-2.
Well, no, they're 6-4 now.
6-4 now, yeah. So they'll go from 6-2 to 6-5. They'll lose to the Pats, they'll lose to the Bills, and they'll lose to the Rams.
Yeah.
Now, in a normal world, that wouldn't be so much of an issue because the NFC South is falling flat on its ass right now. But the Panthers now only half a game back.
Exactly.
This game just got really worrying now for Tampa. So, what are you going to go with this?
I'm going to go. I feel like the spread's too big. I think the Rams will win, but I think Tampa cover it.
So you got Rams win, Tampa cover.
Yeah,
I've got Rams taking this for out. Matthew Stafford, there's one thing he is very, very good at is beating the blitz. So what do what does Todd Bowles do?
Yeah, blitz.
Live by the blitz and dies by the blitz. So I've got the Rams taking the points. You've got the Rams winning, but Tampa the cover. And then I've got a Monday Night Football game. This one is strangely looks good. Panthers at 49ers. The Niners are -7-point favorites.
Yeah. Once again, the spread's quite big. Carolina are another kind of Jekyll and Hyde bipolar team, whatever you want to call them. Like one week they'll look fantastic, and other weeks they'll just get blown out. I think typically they've been worse on the road as well. So although they've won at Lambeau, I'm gonna take 49ers at the points. I think
49ers at the points. Okay.
Yeah.
I think this is
just because they're at home. I think if they were away and the spread was the same, I'd be taking Carolina to cover. But
someone's going to take a stranglehold of this league then, because we've gone for a lot of different things. I've gone 49ers, but I've got the Panthers to cover. I think the connection between Bryce Young and Ted McMillan, I think, really has started to fruition over the last couple of weeks now. I think that could be a problem for the 49ers. And also Rico Dowdle running the ball, that could potentially have a problem. So I'm gonna have the 49ers win. I still think they're gonna win. I'm gonna say 27-21, I think. So
yeah, potentially. I mean, I guess it just comes down to the fact I don't really trust Bryce Young that much. I mean, he played well last week, but just when you start to believe that Bryce Young could be the guy, he then goes and lays an absolute egg the following week. And I feel like this is the kind of game that he'll get picked off a couple of times and just look awful. We'll have like 120 passing yards. Like, yeah, I don't know. I just don't trust it. So I'm going to take the Niners.
Okay. All right. Well, that's our Blazing Six for week 12. Let us know down in the comment section below who you think is going to win out of those 6 games and who's going to win out of the Patriots. This is that game. I've got to rest my throat because it's really sore. So let's get on out of there. Kieren, thank you so much, mate. As always. Thank you to everyone who's been watching. Thank you to everyone who's been listening. Smash the like button on the way out. Gronk, spike the subscribe button. Tell all your friends. Follow us on our social media platforms. Make sure you follow the podcast on Spotify and Apple as well. We'll be back on Tuesday night for our review show of the Bengals bungling because it probably will happen. But for now, good night. God bless. Go Patriots. Let's get 10 wins. Let's go.